So I watched The Nun II today, and here are my first thoughts on it. First of all, I want to apologize for the very late review. I was getting used to this new editing software, and also life happened, so it slowed me down quite a bit. But I'm hoping to get back to more content regularly like it was before. You may also know, if you have seen my newest skit, that I have a green screen now, so expect to see a lot of that in later videos. Anyway, enough about me, on to the review, which is going to be a spoiler review, by the way, since it's been out for a while, so there's your warning right there. Now on to the movie itself. It actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It takes place not long after the first one, and the delivery guy from the first one, Maurice, is doing deliveries at this boarding school that used to be a church, apparently. And apparently buried in that church slash boarding school is some sort of ancient relic, kind of like the one from the first one, but instead of the blood of Jesus Christ, it's like the eyes of Saint Lucy, I think. Anyway, Valak manages to escape in the first one, like I mentioned before, by possessing Maurice, and now is using Maurice to search for these eyes. And apparently while all this is going on, a bunch of people from the church and stuff, from different churches across the nation, nuns and priests, are like going up in flames, killing themselves. It's a religious bloodbath. So this being the main plot of the movie, I was actually pleasantly surprised that they were able to come up with an actual reason that Valak would come back and why, in a way that actually kind of makes sense. But at the same time, it does feel like they were reaching for a reason, because a lot of times that's what they do with sequels. Though, on the other hand, it does show a lot of Maurice being possessed, because that was only teased at the end of the first one. We only really saw a glimpse of that, so seeing it firsthand and like the actual process and agony that he goes through was also interesting. However, there were parts of the movie that felt very flat and boring and kind of unneeded. There was one part where this kid walks into like his room or whatever and kills them and snaps their neck, and I personally felt like that scene wasn't really needed. And with that in mind, another thing that really bothered me is that the blood was a bit excessive, despite there wasn't a lot of gore, but there was a lot of blood that looked kind of bad. Like, say someone's legs or whatever is like down here, it just looks like someone poured like cranberry juice on them. That's what it looked like to me. Another thing that I wasn't sure how they were going to pull off is how they were gonna get rid of Valak in this movie. And they explained it at the beginning of like the wine being the blood of Christ, and there's like a whole discussion of it does turn into the actual blood of Jesus Christ if you believe hard enough, and that's basically what happened at the end, and that's how they defeated Valak. Like, I appreciate the foreshadowing and like the building up of that scene. It just like, it felt a little lackluster, it's in my opinion. I don't know. At least in comparison to how it was handled in the first movie, where it was actually the blood of Jesus Christ. I will say that there is one scene that they completely changed from the trailers. The head of the boarding school or whatever, her name was Madame Laurent, I think. Yeah, Madame Laurent? I don't remember. She gets killed like halfway through the movie by Valak because like a metal thing falls on her head, and like one of the teachers like just finds her body and they take her away. In the trailer there was a scene where the girls are like looking through a vent in a room and they see Valak in the corner, but in the actual movie it's Madame Laurent, and she's facing away from the camera. So they completely changed that scene in the trailer to avoid spoilers, which I personally really appreciate because a lot of modern trailers nowadays really like to spoil their movies, like from beginning to end. But that's a topic for another day. I just wanted to express that I enjoyed that. And while the plot felt really cliche and whatever, and there were a lot of portions where I got kind of bored, there was a lot of cheap and very predictable jump scares. One last thing that really bothered me is that I don't know how this ties into The Conjuring 2, which is where the character Valak came from. All we really get is this one scene at this end credits scene with Ed and Lorraine, I think that's what their names are, getting a phone call like, oh, we got a situation, can you figure it out? That's all we kind of get. And we don't really get an explanation on how Valak escaped. Like, at least in the first one, you get an explanation because Valak possessed Maurice. We don't get an explanation in this, so it's kind of confusing. All in all, if you just want a horror movie to watch, this might be a good one, but if you're expecting, like, good quality story or whatever, go watch something else, I guess. I would give this a 4 out of 10, a 5 at best.